Well, good morning. My name is Dylan. I am so excited to get to show you a demonstrative speech on pour overs. Now, if you don't know what pour overs are a more precise way of brewing coffee. A typical old school way to do it is with a brewer. And with a brewer, the way it works is the water floods the grounds in the basket and it outputs a huge amount of coffee. But when you don't want to do so much coffee and you also want a more precise input of water into the grounds, a pour over is a great way to get a better tasting coffee for sure. Some things you will need for the pour over is a tea kettle, a grinder, we have a scale, some coffee, we have our pour over carafe right here, and then the V60 with the paper filter on top. Now, it's pretty simple. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we get filtered water heated up to 200 degrees in the tea kettle. And then we're gonna weigh out our coffee now to grind it. Um, when we weigh out the coffee, we do it by grams, and we're always aiming for 25 grams of coffee to grind up. So I'll throw it into the grinder. Now, for grinding it, there's a few options on most home grinders, which is, coarse, medium, and then fine. We do medium for our pour overs here at work. So, got my coffee ground up now. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet the paper filter on the V60 on top. And all I'm doing here when I'm wetting it is I'm getting it preset into the V60 and I'm getting rid of all of the paper taste in it as well. Now, once I have wet the filter, I'm gonna go ahead and put the grounds right into the V60 filter on top. And I'm gonna dump out that old water that I just poured in there to get it all pre-wet for me. And then this is where the fun begins. We will have a timer that we will set as well. Once the timer begins, you're gonna be pouring in intervals. So the first pour is called the bloom, and it's usually done at 60 grams. And you do it within the first 30 seconds of the timer. Now, as it goes, you're watching it all kind of drip down and settle in. We didn't really get much in that first pour, but we're gonna go to the second pour now. The second pour is to 160 grams. By the time you hit 45 seconds, you shall have completed the second pour. Takes a lot of focus and constant work with pour overs, but the effect or the end of it is amazing. And once we hit 45 seconds, we will then start our third pour. The third pour will be at 270 grams. And make sure when you're pouring that you pour in a circular motion going counterclockwise. And then once you hit a minute, you will hit the final pour, which will take it all the way up to 380 grams. So I'm finishing up that final pour. While we let this final pour drain, I will tell you some fun facts about coffee. A couple fun facts for you is there is no such thing as a darker roast or a medium roast or a lighter roast. All coffee is roasted at the same capacity. Now, some roasters will over roast or under roast their beans. Whenever you over roast, you're actually burning more caffeine out. So dark roast, which is stigmatized to have the most caffeine in the coffee industry, actually does not have that much caffeine compared to a light roast coffee. So that is a good fun fact for you. And then when it comes to espresso versus drip coffee, which one has more caffeine? Ounce to ounce, the espresso does definitely outbeat the caffeine, but in a typical situation for coffee, people do not serve more than 2 ounces of espresso compared to your 8 or 10 ounce drip coffee that you would get. So drip coffee definitely takes the cake there on the most caffeine. Right now, our pour over is finishing up. Once it's finished, you may drink up and enjoy your wonderful cup of coffee. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you get to enjoy this new way of making coffee.